You know, the internet is full of noisy influencers making empty claims about what the latest AI model can do. You know, first it was going to wipe out the radiologists, the software developers, and now it's going for the CFOs. Their demos normally work by somebody uploading a spreadsheet, typing in a few prompts, and boom, the whole month's financials, board pack, and briefing notes are all there ready. Wow, that's amazing. Accountants must be shaking in their boots. But of course, if you believe this brain rot, you'd assume that every business right now is just churning out all their analytics by uploading it to Claude. But if that were true, no doubt you'd be hearing accountants and analysts from all around the world complain about layoffs. And it's just not happening, and it won't. So in this video, I'm going to tell you why the impressive looking demo rarely translates into real world production workloads. And it all comes down to a simple principle that we call 60-30-10. And to illustrate that, I'm going to ask our Kiraa Engine developer, Markos, to explain how he thinks about it. Back when I had a comfortable corporate job and could afford nice coffee, CFOs and CEOs used to ask me to make them presentations on something like market snapshots or things for customer visits. A 1 hour presentation was usually a full day of work just to gather, organise and prepare the information before anyone even touched PowerPoint. 60% of the work, I would say, was in pulling all the information that I needed together. 30% of the time was in ordering and structuring it and making sure that I could hit the brief. And 10% of the time was actually spent doing the presentation. We've talked about that a lot internally, and Markos told me that it's very similar to how he thinks about software design.
Yeah, so I was first exposed to the 60-30-10 principle from another creator called Jake Van Cleef, who basically says that AI, the AI solutions that are currently being pushed on everyone are really, the only good ones are the ones that really are only 10% of it is AI. So 60% of it is traditional software, 30% of it's routing logic, and then the 10% AI layer that sits on top can only be of value if you have the 60% and the 30% in place. And this is why a lot of AI projects fail, because people try to throw it at everything, but they haven't got the right infrastructure in place, the right foundations in place.
So where do people go wrong with AI, and how are people thinking about this incorrectly?
People are a bottleneck. So if you're processing a large amount of documents that require reading and reasoning, that can't be handled by a traditional script. Like, you can't write a Python script to say, analyze these documents for me and tell me if they meet these conditions, right? Like, let's say you're trying to review 1,000 different insurance policies. You're not going to write a Python script to be able to extract the knowledge that you want. You want to throw an LLM at that. But in terms of giving each LLM or each session of the LLM the right policy to analyze, you shouldn't get it to retrieve it. You should just build a script out that automatically handles it for it.
So in a practical sense, how does this work?
But you need to know what isn't worthwhile to automate with that tool. Like, there's plenty of traditional software out there that already does it. Like, for example, I had somebody ask me if they could get an LLM or Claude or ChatGPT to copy over all of their last clients, say athlete programs, over to the next month. But I said that it's not worthwhile to waste tokens on that. You're better off just building a script that runs, or a scheduled job that runs every single month live on your application that does the copying over for you. Because all it is you're just querying a set of structured data in a database and then making another request to add it in another place in that same database.
So that means if you want to get your sales team using AI generated insights, most of the work that you'll be doing is on the data pipeline. Extracting the sales history, combining it with the CRM, joining up the customer and product metadata. Doing it once is easy, but doing it at scale every time is a lot harder. And that's the bit that people forget. So 60% of effort at least is in getting and organizing and preparing the data. Then obviously there's the orchestration layer, running the jobs, checking that they ran, managing failures. All that stuff is frightfully boring, but it's the entire internal plumbing that makes the process work today, tomorrow, and next week. But all the demos talk about the cherry, but in an enterprise environment, that's usually the least of your worries. And look, 10% is not an insult to the complexity or the power of this technology. But assuming that it works for 100% is a really bad idea. And that's why we built the Kiraa Engine to automate the 90% and leave the 10% to whatever the best model is this week. So let me say this one more time: 60% workflow, 30% orchestration, and 10% AI. And that's the difference between an AI demo and an AI system. I'm Dr. Errol Brandt, the founder of Kiraa, and that was Markos Abdallah, our Kiraa Engine developer. If you enjoyed our content, please consider liking and subscribing. Please also check out Jake Van Cleef's channel, who's doing some really excellent things with AI workflows. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.